Just because I hit that. I'm not. We can all stand and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Thank you for attending this special meeting of the Board of Commissioners for March 21st, 2017. With that, let's move right into the agenda. Should we have Tony come up?
Yeah.
Tony, why don't you come on up and, again, state your name, who you're with, and we'll move right into the BAS contract.
Thank you. Tony Bontrager from R.E. Sutton Associates.
So on the BAS agreement, I guess to lay it all out, we have the providers that we have involved here are Magellan, Pharmaceutically, we have Inedico, and we also have BAS, which is our third-party administrator.
Correct.
The Magellan contract has one more year on it, so that does not need to be renewed today or entered into a new contract. Inedico's contract had an auto-renewal clause in it, and that auto-renewal clause triggered in December of 2016. So the BAS contract, which is our third-party provider, does expire April 1st, and so we've been happy with their results and with their service, and through this process we've learned that their information was of such a state that it was allowed us, and maybe you could speak of that a little bit as to what that, having BAS and having that information at our third-party provider, our benefits administrator, what that allowed us to do this year.
Yeah. As stated, BAS, your current third-party administrator, they took over your plan January of 2016, and really what that allowed for and will allow for moving forward is much cleaner and better data as you look at options in the future, whenever that may be. The data that was received prior to that from your previous TPA, while there was some data there, it wasn't the best detailed data to have. So BAS definitely came in and did a good job of picking that up and then being able to provide better reporting, better claims data, all the things that you would need to a little bit easier take things to market and everything moving forward.
Do you believe that having 1 year of data had an effect, 1 year of data that the underwriters were comfortable with? Do you think that had effect on some of our quotes this year?
Yeah, I would say generally speaking, whenever we go to market, you want at least 2 years of really good data, because 1 year can either be the high point or the low point. When you look at at least two, you kind of get a little bit better feel. So having only one, I know one carrier was a bit skittish about bidding on the plan overall. So having two would definitely help with that moving forward.
So when there isn't good data, they're kind of forced to look at worst-case scenarios?
Yeah, underwriters tend to be pretty conservative people, and so I always tell groups, if you've got the data, whether you think it's good or not, provide it, because they're just going to assume it's worst case anyway. So we always try to get the data, even good, bad, or indifferent. You want the data so you can really see, and you want them to have good data so they can make accurate projections. It's one thing too, as a self-funded plan, they are your claims, so it doesn't necessarily help for a group to come in and have bad projections. It doesn't help you at the end of the day. You might get a good bid to say, we expect your cost to be here, but if that was done on data that's no good, that's not going to change what is actually going to happen.
Right.
So whether your data is good or bad, you want them to have it so they can make accurate projections.
So based on our discussions as we've met and have worked through all this, it's probably very safe to say that we get another year of quality data under our belt, that our health insurance program is going to be in a much better position to take to the market next year, to where we can start finally competitively bidding this and getting out in the marketplace to where we can start looking at more options than what we've had to deal with over the last years here.
Yeah, I think that having more data will always bring down the red flags a little bit from others that are looking at it, especially those that don't operate under the same structure that you have today.
Yeah.
Good, bad, and it's just a different structure. It's not to say it's the wrong structure. It's just a different structure.
Yep.
And so when they don't understand the structure and they don't understand the previous data, that just makes for more hurdles.
So your recommendation would be to do another year contract with BAS with no auto renewal, effective April 1st, with an ending date of March 31st of 2018 at this point?
Yep.
And no auto renewals?
And no auto renewals.
Got it.
You heard that, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, well, any questions about the BAS contract right now, because that's what's in front of us now? Any questions for the board, additional clarifications?
We answered
I think
the
so.
most important question.
I'll open the floor.
I'll make a motion to accept the BAS contract effective April 1st.
Second. We have a motion and a second for Porter County Health Insurance contract execution for BAS. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. BAS is on the team. Next, AIG organ transplant policy.
Could you walk us through so that we all understand what this is and where, if we didn't do this, where it would go back to, et cetera?
So you currently have a fully insured human organ transplant policy. Sometimes some people have these covered under their general stop-loss policy. Sometimes they're carved out. Pros and cons to each of those situations. I would recommend at this time to go ahead and renew that. When we check with Sun Life to come back and say, will you cover this? They will cover it under theirs, but the pricing point for them to start accepting that risk didn't quite weigh out as much as what we may have thought. So whether you kind of pay for it out of this policy versus this policy, I don't think it today makes a real large difference. So I think in the name of keeping everything moving forward, renew that AIG policy, and then again, that's a one-year policy, and so as you're reviewing everything for future renewals, that comes up on the table again to be reviewed.
So in essence, for all of you in the audience, this contract policy is right around $100,000 a year. And if we were to not have it, then it would be picked up on the Sun Life stop loss.
Correct.
Which we've already executed, but we could go back and add it. But it's about the same or more price of increase of the $100,000 if we moved it over to the other one. We've decided, or we're trying to decide, which way to go. I think for where we're at in our contract terms and everything, I think the 1 year out makes sense for us to go ahead and execute.
And when you add that back under the Sun Life stop loss policy, you do accept some risk as well on that. So if someone goes and gets a transplant, you do pay up to your specific threshold and everything. So that's where some of that counterbalance weighs out is with the fully insured, you're offloading some of the risk of those claims. When you bring it back to Sun Life, you still pay a premium for them to cover, but you also accept some risk in that as well.
Exactly.
So
it's not really a cap amount, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, you're accepting up to your stop-loss threshold of $150,000, but then you're also picking up that risk of up to $150,000, so.
Is that clear, everyone here?
Yep.
Okay. All right, I'm going to open up the floor here for the AIG organ transplant policy. Any other additional questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, Tony, we had received a document that spelled out the total number of, I don't know if they're the correct describing them to be programs, but the organ transplant policy was one of them. And we had there was 9 different companies involved. BAS was one of them, and so on and so forth. The servicing agent of Anton and R&R. Out of that list of 9 that you listed, I understand that BAS is still on board. Who is being dropped to lessen that administrative cost?
I'm trying to think of who all was on that list.
That's the next agenda item, Jim.
I know, but it's not just the servicing. I'm talking about the overall administrative costs.
The organ transplant policy? Or?
Yeah, that
is one on there,
That was
yeah.
one of them.
Right.
There was 7 others.
But
I'd asked the question, is all of these necessary? And I was told, no, they're not.
I think moving forward, as you review looking at your overall plan, are all necessary? Possibly not, no, they may not be. But with keeping the plan in place and structured as it is today, is AIG 100% necessary? No, we could offload that risk to someone else, but the price point, I would say, doesn't necessarily make a big difference in whether or not,
Yeah, I understand that.
so.
I'll make the motion to move forward with the AIG organ transplant policy.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the organ transplant policy provided by AIG. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So far, what everybody's heard is it sounds like the insurance plan for Porter County that we've had the last 2 years will continue another year with most of our insured providers. Now we're going to move into probably where there will be some changes here. Well, I know there will be changes here on the servicing agent discussion and the contract there. Scott, do you want to give us a little bit of recap on that, or?
Yeah, we received the commissioners received a letter of resignation from Anton Insurance on, I believe, the 17th, Friday, resigning as the servicing agent for the Porter County Health Benefits Plan. That would be effective April 1st. Obviously, with the tight time constraint, it kind of put us in a situation where we were needed to make some quick decisions as far as who would be the servicing agent. At that point, we reached out to R.E. Sutton and discovered that they would do this and do this for other municipalities or corporations or school corporations, et cetera. And so we also talked about the fact that this would be a one-year bridge type of agreement to get us to 2018 when we can dive back into this. And again, kind of goes back in with the having 2 years of data, being able to go back to the market, having all of the contracts lined up, and being able to, again, go test the market, maybe with some slightly better results simply because we have better data and have a much better understanding of the health insurance program that had gotten put together a couple of years ago. So with that being said, we asked you if your business does this type of work, and you guys did. You understood that it's a one-year bridge agreement. It's not something we'd want to stay with moving forward. And then why don't you run us through what your fees would be to provide that service?
Okay. Our structure that we operate out of is similar, but yet does have some differences. We tend to be fee-based consultants, as you know, we did the project fee. A fee-based consultant, and so one of the first processes that I would do would be to go through some of the different line items to kind of speak to your point on some of the fees that might be being paid outside of the fee you paid directly to us, and do everything I can to pull those out. The back-end contractuals, I don't know for sure, but to pull out some of those fees that you currently pay, to pull those out. Our fee is, proposed fee is $3.75 PEPM, is what
As
that
opposed
is.
to what we're paying now. What do we pay now?
I believe currently as a PEPM, you pay $12.50.
What's the difference between those two?
The difference in between those two, the
Use
structure,
abbreviations.
oh, per employee per month.
Okay.
Yep, sorry.
Oh, that's
Yep.
all right.
In insurance lingo, per employee per month is PEPM. And I would say that our structure, as you kind of spoke to, as a bridge to whatever you would decide moving forward will be heavy on the consultative side, analyzation side. The day-to-day structure might be a little different than what you have today. Not that we can't do the day-to-day structure that you have today in conversations and stuff. That's just not how we kind of structured on our end, which is probably why at least part of that dollar difference there as well. I will say, though, if you call and say, hey, we need this done, we'll do it. So it's not, I hate to give the impression that, the $12.50 versus the $3.75 just was, you're just paying way too much. I think that they offer a lot of good benefit services. But and we can offer those, but in working with Scott a little bit, I think the approach that you're looking for along the way here is more of a consultative approach to, over the next year, where do we want to sit and where do we want to be moving forward. So that's
the window dressing that we're going to be doing for the event next year when we can go back out to the market.
Correct.
So.
And you will not be receiving any additional compensation from any of the other companies that we're working with?
No, sir.
Okay. Because as we know, that can't be said with the agents that we just replaced.
Understand.
That's why that $12.50 seems rather high to me. Much, actually, very high to me. Knowing that they were compensated on the back end from at least one of the companies that we're associated with, which was Magellan. So it was my understanding is, and you can clarify this for me, if they weren't receiving that compensation, that would be what compensation that we would receive in the way of debate or rebates?
From my understanding of that, that was a per prescription fee that was being charged. So I just don't think that fee would have ever really been charged in that. So when someone goes and fills a prescription, there would not have been an extra fee in the dispensing of that.
So at the end of the day, our costs were higher because of that.
I would agree with that.
Thank you.
What would be the breakdown of some of those fees? So we have some issues to deal with that you're going to tackle within the Magellan contract. I think Jim just touched on that. And then we're also going to we are going to tackle the issue of the Sun Life renewal. We got a little bit more work to do on that.
Yep.
And also, obviously, the price difference between the $12.50 and the $3.75. We don't have an exact number, but it looks like potentially there could be about another 150 or so thousand in savings.
Right, with those fees, and then again, looking at the Sun Life structure and stuff, which may or may not be something you want to address this year, but ongoing, but really just laying those out for you all to make the decision on what you would like to do with those.
Well, ultimately, I think, obviously we need to have action on this consultant service agreement, but I think ultimately what this exercise has done is obviously got all of us into a much different understanding of what we currently have, and then also to set the table to move forward next year. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we're definitely have to make a change. It just means that we want to put ourselves in a position to be able to fully test the market, take our the non-traditional plan that we have now with the cost plus, could be able to compare it to more traditional plans that people would be more used to, and be able to go to the market and get good data and be able to compare apples to apples next year. And I think all of these actions are putting us in a position to be able to do that. And then at that point, it's let the best price and provider prevail. But I think we needed this to be able to kind of clear the cobwebs and get us in the situation where we could actually put ourselves in that position in 2018. So I do think a lot got accomplished through this process. and the continuing to set the table, so to speak, for next year, to be able to ensure, basically, that we are getting the best bang for our buck in our health insurance, and we're making sure that the costs and the plans are in line with the reality of what's happening out there in the market.
Right. I mean, I think that, our policy to dissolve all auto renewal contracts is going to be a huge benefit to us. And I think that this board's willingness to, at the very least, every 24 months, revet all this out again and make sure, qualify that we are doing the right thing.
Well, we
I
have
think
tried
is-
to do away with auto renewals already, so
Yeah.
glad that we're going to be certain
Right.
this time that it's not happening.
I think the benefits can help, but up here, tackling it or managing it in that way.
Yeah, and just to follow up with that, probably within the next 2 weeks, we will be submitting our notifications to not renew. So we're going to go on record real early, because we feel very confident that this is going to trend the right way for Porter County. I would also just like to follow up and say thank you. And I think the other board members, I think I can honestly say to the citizens of Porter County and the employees of Porter County that we have our hands on the steering wheel of the health insurance program in Porter County, finally. And I think this thing is going to trend the right way. I'm very confident that it will, but it gets back to doing all the blocking and tackling and doing all the right things the way that they're supposed to be done. And we are now on that path. So I feel very confident as to where we're at right now. It's been a very exhausting process. I want to thank Attorney Scott McClure for his deep dive into this, because he spent a ton of time, and I think we have a true champion there with him, too, leading the charge for county government. So I'm very pleased with the outcome. I want to get there quicker, but that's me. But I do feel confident that we're trending the right way right now. We're heading in the right direction. So that I guess that's some form of confidence that we have up here. So this is really all I wanted to say about that. So, Laura, do you have any comments? Or?
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with R.E. Sutton.
We have a motion and a second to approve a one-year consultant service agreement with no auto renewal for R.E. Sutton and Associates. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
So, with that, do we have any other matters that need to come before the commissioners right now? Anybody? And with that, we stand in recess.